This will be fun for Mike and audio with two deep voice, loud voices.
Testing.
Whoa.
Hi.
What do you think?
I know. All right. So, welcome to podcast Pixelogic ZBrush Live. This is episode 8. Thank you. Episode 8. So, our guest today, Mr. Cesar.
The illustrious
Dacol Jr. And it's always got to be Cesar, right? It can't be Cesar.
No. Let's get this. Let's get this right.
Okay.
Because this has been like a bone of contention forever.
Before we even do that, I want to point out that you are alive, and I can touch you because I know online there's been some things people think. I think he's died, didn't he?
Yeah. No, I'm not dead.
No, you're here.
I'm here. I'm still alive. I'm still kicking.
Yes.
For now.
All right.
Yeah. No. That I found that quite humorous. And quite important, actually, that somebody would think that I'm dead. So that was funny.
Well, you went dark we're going to get into that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We are. So
the pronunciation, go ahead.
The pronunciation.
Let's get this correct.
So recently,
yes.
I've found out that my name is spelled Cesar.
Wait, just recently as in like what?
No. Like, very funny. Very funny.
You said that like I just found out a month ago.
Recently, I found out that it's a Latin derivative.
Okay.
And the way they pronounce it, in Latin, is say and then czar.
Right.
So it's not Caesar. Right. So now, of course, everybody's going to say Caesar.
Well, I
but you know what? My
Cesar.
entire life I've had it, so whatever.
I always say Cesar.
It's the way I've always pronounced my name.
Well, if you go back 8 years ago when we first met, I was calling you Cesar day in and day out, and you would just grab me by the shoulders and shake me a little bit.
I thought it was by the neck, actually.
Paul, no. You started at shoulder level. The neck was by day 3. It was the neck. But we started at shoulders day 1. Paul, it's Cesar. Oh, so Caesar. No, Cesar. I'm like, all right, I'll get it. We'll get it correct. Right. So.
It's just, it's not that I have an issue with it. It's just, when people call me Caesar on the street, I don't respond because it's not what I'm used to hearing. I'm always, my friends call me Cesar, so Cesar, it's Cesar, whatever. We're just spending too much time on this. It's Cesar.
I go by a lot of names, so some of them I can't say in public because people.
That's true.
Would not be.
That's true. I know quite a few of them.
Well, thank you. Good.
And my pet names.
Okay. Perfect. Let's not get into that just yet. Okay. Let's work up to that.
By the way, I love you, Paul. You know that, right?
Yes.
I love you, man.
You're my brother from another mother.
Indeed.
Well, it's been 8 years, right?
It's been a ride, man. If you think back, where we were and where we are, and also for ZBrush and Pixelogic, it's been an amazing ascension where it's gone.
Yeah. Well, you've been using since ZBrush since what, version 1.2? 1.5?
Something like that. I don't even remember anymore. It was one something for sure.
But you started not in the CG world. You are going all the way back to your days of Toronto. On the streets of Toronto.
Yes, sir.
Doing special
the corner
effects.
of no corners. I started out in the makeup effects side of the business. Everybody has their founding movies. Some people call Star Wars their founding movies. Sure. Star Wars was like an intriguing film for me, but it wasn't like the founding movie for me.
Yours was Tootsie, I believe, if I remember right.
Of course, I love dressing up. Anytime I can wear a garter.
Sure.
No.
It's okay. We're getting it out there now. We're letting people know.
Paul, you said we weren't going to talk about this.
Okay.
Anyways, no.
Can you imagine right now seeing you in the red dress and
everybody's seeing me in lipstick, aren't you? You're seeing me in drag. I know.
He was great, though. Dustin Hoffman was fantastic. And then Bill Murray was fabulous in that, too.
Which is interesting. An interesting segue, and we'll go back there because my mentor was Dick Smith, and Dick did the makeup on Dustin Hoffman in Tootsie, and it's interesting because when they finished the first makeup test, they said that's the ugliest woman I've ever seen.
Perfect.
And he was like, I guess that's the look that we're going for.
All right, sold. That's the movie. Let's do this.
But yeah, so makeup effects and the movies for me though were Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which was gigantic. It was just one of those movies that was just like, whoa, how did they do that? And then Gremlins. I mean, when I saw Gremlins, it was like Gizmo was real to me. I needed to know how they did that. Yeah. And that formed a long, career life.
But you got in at like 12?
13.
You got in at 13.
Yeah, I got in at 13. I'm one of those guys that I got in because I had a next door neighbor that messed around with it, and he would keep his garage open because of the fumes and all that sort of stuff. And I used to ride my bike, my BMX, up and down the street, and I saw him doing it, and I would just hang out and bug him and ask him, and slowly that me being at the end of his driveway, kind of yelling out questions, eventually came to come in, and then
it's a slow movement,
and then I just started from there, and. It was a different time. I mean, there was no internet. It's not like now where you can just go out and get all of this information.
Right.
So I called it mining for gold. You know, you would go to the library and
you would actually have to go to conferences. You'd actually have to go. People.
Yeah, you had to search out.
Yeah.
And anytime you saw like an ad of somebody local, like one of my best friends to this day is John Brown. And John Brown is, he's
who's also from Toronto.
Yeah, from Toronto.
By the way, the Canadians were taking over. I'm Canadian as well, so
Canadian in the house. But yeah, no, John and I, he had a studio on Spadina. I used to work out of this studio. We used to, so, and then eventually he married this wonderful woman named Avra. I was American, and he ended up in LA and worked on a bunch of movies. He did everything, and then now he teaches sculpting, or he's been teaching forever at Noman, and he's got all these amazing videos out and whatnot. And anyhow, the long and the short of it is
John, that was your plug. Cesar helped you.
Yeah, there you go, John.
There it is.
I expect my 5% kickback.
JohnBrown.com.
But he I used to live vicariously through him because obviously he made it out to LA, right? He was a Toronto boy that made it out to LA, and he used to tell me all these stories and
well, during that time you were doing like modeling and also acting though too, weren't you?
Oh my God!
I know. I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pic. Just give us one of them. Just give us one of the posts. No. This is why we record them video wise. Just give one. Yes.
No.
Yes. I'm going to describe a blue long shirt sitting on the rock.
There was a period in my younger days when I was about 50 pounds lighter.
You look great. What are you talking about? You look great. Man. You look good.
I've gotten.
I got a speed bump.
The ongoing joke is I have a buddy of mine who's just lost all this weight, and I tell him all the time, it's like, don't worry about it, I found it.
Perfect. I picked it up, took it.
I got it. Whenever you want it back, just, I
took the weight.
No, but it's like I'm close. I'm 46 now. And
whoa, you dropped it.
Yeah, I'm 46 now, and something happened when I turned 40, man. I went gray and just bizarre.
I like it on you though. It looks good.
Thank you.
It looks good. I think I'm gonna end up like you too because my dad went gray like in his 30s. He started, I think, having gray.
I got a little. From Fantastic Four. I've got a little of the what's his name?
Oh,
God, I'm horrible with names.
You're talking about the actor or the character?
Huh? Reed Richards. There you go. Mr. Fantastic.
Count on Kyle to know that stuff right there.
But yeah, no. So I mean, it was great times. And then Jurassic Park came out, and
that's why I'm sitting here. That T2 is those movies. Why I'm sitting here.
I think that movie had a huge impact on everybody. I mean, as soon as it's one of those movies that I'm sure everybody remembers where they were when they saw it for the first time. It was just like one of those, it's like one of those moments. And when you work in the industry, one of the worst parts about working in the industry is that eventually you become a technician.
Yes.
So you don't watch movies. You
Yes.
kind of
'Cause you
analyze
see
them.
things and you analyze them like, oh, that didn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
What's that over there?
Yeah.
You can't help but do it too, though.
Oh,
It's
no,
hard.
100%.
It's hard to get away from that.
100%. And
Speaking of that, what'd you think of the Rogue One? Are you on the?
the one thing that from a storytelling mechanism, I thought it took me out of the movie. And that bothered me. It bothered me that I was with the movie, and then all of a sudden when these digital characters came on, I was watching that.
Yeah.
And in both of those instances, they're of course, Carrie Fisher was alive, right?
Yeah, she saw it and
so she saw it and
before
approved
she
it.
passed away like a month later. I
Right.
think it was.
But clearly she wasn't in her 20s.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
any actress, and in fact the actress that they had, I thought would have been fine, and everybody would have understood and accepted the actress.
So what about going old school and having Carrie Fisher be in there and make up her and trying to make her look young?
I don't think it would have. Their
wouldn't think it would
body
work?
type was different. I think she had changed too much, right?
But I think that's also what made Jurassic Park and Tomb Raider 2 is that mixture. And
Oh,
you're one of
absolutely.
the
And I'm
you're one
huge,
of those artists that there is time to always use digital and then maybe use some practical and use them both together. And I think that's why I like Christopher Nolan so much. He uses a lot of practical.
Yeah.
Like he'll
Yeah.
make the sets and flip the people.
Yeah.
He wants to see that look, right? And then I think that's what was great about Star Wars Episode 7 with he had JJ put a lot of digital, but then he also physically
Practical stuff.
I love that stuff.
Jurassic Park, again, visual effects is a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's
Use
not
it when you need it.
Exactly. It's not the end all. It shouldn't be everything. And the early movies used it as a tool, right? So if you look at Jurassic Park and you look at T2, both of those movies are movies that have digital effects and practical effects at the same time. And T2 especially, there are scenes in there that I know people are like, oh my God, that's digital. And it's like, actually, that's a puppet. And to me, that's where we should be. And that's where I think the dialogue should be, the conversation should be. And and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm such a proponent of it, because because I came from the makeup effects side and I came on early.
Mm-hmm.
I've told a story in the past that I became Darth Vader, right? I was the guy that had abandoned practical effects and gone over to the
I
dark
thought you were
side.
saying because your voice was deep.
Luke.
Kingsley liked that one.
But yeah, so
Right, you made the jump from practical to digital.
I
and
made
at
the
that
practical early on.
time, You're talking early 2000s.
No, 90s, mid 90s.
90s? Okay.
Yeah. So it was definitely early times. In fact, anyways, I don't want to rehash old stories that I've told before, but one of the things that I became acutely aware of was just how much of a division there was. And I was like, and it never made sense to me. And I've been from day one, I've been out there trying to get more and more practical people over onto the digital side, because when you create something in the practical world, you deal with real laws of physics, especially if you're doing animatronics, for example.
Yep.
You need to understand, torque and how things work and compressions and sculpting something for an animatronic, understanding how to sculpt something so that it'll compress properly, and even things like scale patterns, understanding how, and that's stuff that kids nowadays that are coming out of the VFX side of things, they become enamored with surface detail, but they don't necessarily understand why it's happening, what's going on underneath the surface that creates that surface detail.
Right, or like you take some for scales. Why are there different size scalings in certain parts
Exactly.
of an animal's body and things like that? There's reasons for all of that.
Yeah, everything, a wrinkle. I mean, that's why I did a DVD just on wrinkles, because
For Noman, it's up. You can get it at Noman.
yeah, for Noman. I mean, when I originally pitched the idea, everybody was like, a whole DVD on wrinkles? That's insane, right? And I said, well, yeah, but the reasoning behind it is just explaining and understanding why they form, so that if you can understand that, then all of a sudden you're free to do whatever you want. And that was the drive behind it. And I think that's why it's still like one of their top sellers, because it focuses and it teaches people to think what's going on underneath versus just what's on top of the surface.
Yeah.
Being enamored with surface detail is great, but understanding form and function is
why those
huge.
details are popping out.
Huge. So makeup effects guys, because they deal with that every single day, they bring that to the table. When you're making a mold, you have to think about, undercuts and all that sort of stuff. There's nothing different in terms of us being able to do like UV mapping and texturing and laying things out. It's the exact same process. So it's just another tool, and I wish I think as an industry we've kind of hit a plateau, and that plateau for me is coming from two different places. One, the source material that kids are using nowadays. Everybody's looking at everybody else's work, so it's all looking the same. It's really hard to differentiate one artist from another nowadays because they're basically copying each other, right? They go and they do a Google search and they find these images, or they'll go to ArtStation and they're using the same source materials as inspiration. But the things that inspired me were, artists in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and the things that inspired them were artists in the turn of the century and whatnot. Sure. So what I've been telling my students and where I've been going to is actually going back to the original source, going back and looking at the turn of the century stuff, because those guys were trained, like hardcore trained artists. These are guys that went through years and years and years and studied under somebody and learned like art fundamentals. Sure. And,
kind of the old Renaissance way. You had a master and then you had people below, and they learned from that master. And there's only maybe 4 or 5 learning that trade. And
yeah, and I think if you do that, because like look at some iconic designs, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Look at all these iconic designs that to this day we're still like, wow. So what inspired them, right? So you got to go back.
Where did they get those ideas?
You got to go back to that source. That's the source that should be our inspiration.
I just want us to go back to sourcing the 80s. Okay, you know how I feel about the 80s and yourself.
Well, you and I are in that. Yeah.
I think that's where the phrase also movie magic or smoke and mirrors came from. You had to do smoke and mirrors because you're on a camera.
Yeah.
And that day, that second, you get one shot and one try at this, and it's got like one of our favorites, Fright Night, right?
Yeah.
The 80s version.
The 80s version.
Yeah, the 80s version.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chris Sarandon.
Yeah, right? Like there were so many tricks that Steve and his crew did.
Yeah. Steve Johnson, yes,
in there. Or even just when they're showing just the hand melting, Steve, they sculpted in wax and put a hairdryer in essence, and then recorded it so it looked like it was melting, stuff like that, right? Or, when he's flying across the room, he's sitting like on a thing with wheels, and they're just pushing him across the room to get that feeling.
At the end, at the end of the day, I mean, you're right. The 80s were absolutely an amazing time in terms of the movie magic. I mean, you can go back and you can look, starting at 77, 78,
like Exorcist.
But then it picks up like hardcore in the 80s.
Alien 79.
But there's a couple things. I mean, first of all, let's talk about what you just said, the smoke and mirrors thing. These are magic tricks.
Yeah.
They're nothing more than magic tricks,
it's
right?
A good thing.
And it's what you used to do is you used to plan them. You would plan them out, you would figure out your camera, you would lock it, you would figure out the lens, and then you would set up your magic trick, and you would do your magic trick for the Cyclops, the camera, right?
Right.
And then what you literally had when you played it back was magic. It was just like, wow, this is crazy. Look what we did, right?
Right.
But nowadays, I think with and we need to get back on Jurassic Park and T2, but nowadays what I think is happening is that because we have the green screen technology, everybody's like, well, anything's possible. And it's true, anything's possible, but that doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
That I think there's a difference. I think as soon as you break the laws of what we know of natural physics, all of a sudden it takes you out.
Well, that's we see it. And then that goes back to you saying we, as artists that are maybe in the industry, we see things because it doesn't look natural. Or to this point, the viewers now today are very educated with films in the sense of they can catch things. And let's face it, they all know producers' names now and directors' names because that's how they even market films now. They use those names to market, and people start learning those people.
And that's a problem as well. I mean, if you go back to the 80s. I was talking about this the other day with a coworker where we were talking about music specifically, and it's like how many true legends can you think of that the kids are growing up with now in terms
You mean
of
the kids today, that the music they're listening
Yeah.
to, are they listening to any of the like people you would consider a legend?
well, like when I was growing up,
Okay,
right?
so go. Hit me with some then.
When I was growing up, my dad would listen to Frank Sinatra.
Sure.
My dad, I would listen to Sinatra. I would listen, Pink Floyd. I mean,
You can throw Celine Dion in. I know you're Canadian, so just throw it. I know you want to, so go ahead. Yeah. Right? Every time she does it, I feel like she's having a heart attack or something. Oh, okay, I'm alive again.
and I kind of feel like it hurts, every time. I kind of feel
She's
like she
great.
wants to go, ow.
Listen, she's phenomenal. You can't. I think she's phenomenal.
She's got a great voice.
Yeah.
There's
So
no
you're
question
thinking,
about that.
I don't know. I see a lot of my nieces who are 21 and 17. They're listening to Pink Floyd.
No. I'm not saying that they can't go back to the source because obviously I've got 3 kids and I've raised my kids to be very well rounded when it comes to music. But whether like the Scorpions, or Accept or Judas Priest, or if we want to go down the metal
You want to go
route,
big hair?
or you know what I mean,
Whitesnake?
or but
Def Leppard.
who do they really have nowadays? Who
Right.
do they really have? They
I
have
think-
Justin Bieber.
But I think that's the internet again.
know.
There's just so much information that we can get now. And you got Spotify, you got YouTube, you got iTunes with all their music. There's just so many places to get it, and then now there's so many people. Let's face it, you can make a song now, right, on an iPhone and get it out there on any source
accessibility
you
is amazing.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. And I mean, and this sort of stuff and filmmaking. I mean, I'm all for accessibility of filmmaking because we're removing it out of the big studio's hands. And I think
Sure.
I always think that's a good idea.
Besides Kyle, who runs on Tuesdays to go buy the newest movie and super excited to open the packaging because Kyle's
Really?
the only one that I know
Really?
that's left. Okay, his thing on Tuesdays. All right, guys, you guys have lunch. I'll be back. I'm like, where's he going? He comes back. Yes, I've got it. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. Why didn't you just download it? I need the media. I gotta have the blue DVD. All right.
I kind of feel like.
But you are one of the media guys. So you still like having media.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I still love having the movie. I still love
So
the
how many do you
tangibility
have
of
a
it.
whole thing of DVDs still and everything?
Yeah.
Like
I've
what
got VHSs. I've got laser discs.
Do you have beta?
I probably have a few betas.
Do you even have a beta player and a VHS player?
I do not have a beta player. I do have a VHS player.
Does it work? And
Yeah,
does
the VHS
does the
player-
tracking work? Does the tracking work? That's all I want to know.
The VHS player does work. It's one of them VHS DVD.
Can I
combo
guess what you
things.
have on VHS?
Sure.
Should I throw a couple out there?
Okay.
Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yes.
Friday the 13th,
Yes.
The Exorcist,
Yes.
the original Star Wars,
Yes. You had to because
Jurassic Park. Go back to it. That's right around DVDs. We're starting to come
No,
something.
I think I got that on DVD. I don't
Okay.
think I got that.
And then T2.
T2 DVD as well. Yeah.
I think the only VHS I have left is my pitiful demo college reel. No, wait. And I got to be Johnny Utah at the live Point Break thing here in Hollywood, which was amazing. So
Wow.
much fun.
Wow.
Like, it's really low budget like this. And you just grab me and you're running around. It was a lot of fun. My wife was in the stands by herself with everyone else, of course, but watching me be an idiot. I've gone too far. Oh, my God. I am an FBI agent. And then you got to have the face. So they bring people up. Sorry, but they bring people up, and then you audition kind of, and then they pick the person. It was a lot of fun. I recommend. I think you would have fun doing it.
I would. I'm such a ham. I totally would.
I think it'd be good times. So back to Jurassic Park and Terminator 2.
Jurassic Park, good segue. Jurassic Park. So, like I was saying, I think everybody remembers that, and I remember clearly going in with the mindset of, I want to know how they made this. I want to I'm going to break this down because there was all this mystery surrounding the dinosaurs and
That's exactly what
Stan
turned me. I
Winston.
was drawing all the time. Like, what's this CG thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm interested in that.
And and I went in, and as soon as that Brontosaurus showed up, man, and it reared up on its hind legs and went up for the leaps and then kind of dropped down and it jiggled, I was like, you can't do that.
Is that when you started making the switch a little bit, going
Well,
from the practical to digital a little bit more? Is that
not necessarily? I mean,
Well, when did you meet Dick Smith then? So when?
Oh, that's way before that.
In
Way
the
before
early
that.
'80s.
I think I was 15, 14, 15,
Okay.
right around there.
Yeah. On what film? Like
Not
you
a
just
film.
met him
Not
by
a film.
show?
Dick. There was a magazine that had printed that Dick lived in Larchmont, New York, and this was back in the day where again there was no internet. So I called up the operator and I said, "Can you put me through to the 411 of Larchmont, New York?" And I said, "I'm looking for the phone number for Dick Smith." And she said, "Oh, okay. Well, hold on a second." She said, "Which one?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "There's lots of them." And then she's like, "Hold on, you know what? Where are you?" And I was in Toronto. She's like, "I'll send you a phone book." So she sent me a phone book, and it was like that thick, and like I didn't pay for it. They just sent me this phone book, and I remember like going through the page and like
how many were there?
Oh, there was a lot. It was a lot. It was
for those that don't have any idea what we're talking about. It was always a lot of fun. Oh my God! Look at these pages. I still get a phone book, and I still don't understand why I get a phone. And it's pretty much just yellow pages now.
Yeah.
Which I do this. I pull my phone and go yellowpages.com, and I stand in front of that and go, I can just do this.
Yeah. No, and But it eventually what ended up happening was I started calling all these people, and
how many Dick Smiths did you upset?
God, man, it was a lot of people, and I remember like feeling really deflated that I hadn't found them.
Right.
And my dad getting the bill like maybe 3 or 4 weeks later,
right,
and being like, "What the hell is this?" And then after he was done not being angry at me, he sat down and he was like, "Okay, so what were you trying to do?" And I was like, I told him, and he went away, and I think he came home from work or whatever, and he said, "Hey, you know what? Like, his name could be Richard." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, there's this, like Dick is like for Rich." And I was like,
Richard, yeah.
"What? Oh, okay." And he's like, "Do you want to try?" And
let me try.
So my dad, like I thank my dad to this day because that was really a moment. And then it was like the second name that I called.
No way.
And he picked up, and I was like, "Hi, is this Dick Smith? I'm looking for Dick Smith, the makeup effects guy." And he's like, "Yes, this is him." And I was like, and I hung up. And I was
hung up on him?
And I was just like, "Oh."
So how long of the span did you get before you called him back?
It was a couple of hours. Like
Really?
Yeah, because
you didn't want it to look like it was you again calling.
Well, I'd been on this mission to find him.
This is Cesar with Domino's.
I'd been on this mission to find him that I don't think I ever really expected I would find it. Right. But there it was. It was black and white. I had it. And I remember sitting in my room.
Where was he living at the time? Where were you calling?
I was in Toronto.
Is
and he was
out here?
No, he was in Larchmont, New York.
Oh, okay.
And then I called again, and I said, "Hi, my name is," and he was like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And I said, "Yeah, I make."
By the way, for those that don't know who Dick Smith is,
Yeah.
the ABBK guys, which is Kyle and Kingsley, are going to put up. You guys need to put up some images of Dick Smith. He's like a grandfather, or he's like Harry and Dick, or special effects guys.
He's the godfather of makeup effects. I mean,
much.
The Exorcist. He did The Godfather. I mean, Running Man. I mean, he's Little Big Man. I mean, he's the guy.
Just look him up. And then there's the Dick Smith School is still, from as far as I know, it's still ran by Andrew Clement.
It is.
Who worked under Dick for a long time too. So.
And I highly recommend it if anybody's interested in makeup effects. Don't go to schools. It's a lot less to do this way, and the makeup and the money that you would spend on that, spend it on materials. You get to make all this stuff.
Kyle's putting it up on the screen right now.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. I mean, he's unbelievable. I mean, Dick was like the kindest and nicest guy ever. And can
you imagine trying to do that now today? Isn't that pretty much what Facebook is?
Yeah, I think so. I do love Facebook for the the interaction part of it. Like I'm still like I've been teaching for 15 years now, and I still have students. I'm still in touch with students from way back when. And then every once in a while, like I'll get a friend request, and there'll be some message. It's like, "Hey, remember me?" And we took class, and it's like, wow,
Well, you've got your own school now.
I do have my own school.
Yeah,
I do have my own school. But let's come back to that.
Okay.
So Jurassic Park. I want to finish this one thought because
I'll shut up now.
Because that no. You're very good at segueing. But that one movie did it right.
Right.
Like it started it off, you know what I mean? And it did it right. Like there is like you'll have one shot where it's like the animatronic, then the next shot it's the digital asset, and the next shot it's animatronic. And now here's the kicker: the machines that they were doing it back then, nothing compared to what we have today, and still looks better in some, like especially in the rain shots. It looks better than some of the stuff that's being done today, which is like insane. It's absolutely insane the work that those guys were doing, and that's Steve Spaz Williams. You know, you got to give full credit.
Yes.
Another name drop. Steve Spaz Williams is like the guys. If you guys like Jurassic Park would not have happened if it wasn't for Steve.
It was him and what, 2 other people, right, or 3 other people?
Yeah,
was it 2 or 3?
Mark DePay really and Steve, right? But
in their cave, just sitting there knocking it out and
and I mean, and it's a great story. Look it up. I mean, it's a great story. But yeah, and they also the people behind Terminator 2, and I think that just the floodgates at that point were open in terms of
because they saw the opportunity.
Everything.
They saw because there was CG in films in the 80s. Like
Cameron
the last
saw
Starfighter, for example, the ship's CG.
Well, Cameron saw the opportunity when they did the Abyss, right? And they did the pseudopod and the Abyss, and then Cameron was like, "Wow, that was really. Can you do that, but make it like metal?"
Yeah,
and they were like, "Yeah," and that stuff, like people don't even like that stuff is all forward K, you know, animation. It's there was no IK. That was like rotate a joint, then counter rotate, and then rotate a joint counter.
That's what I had to do in college when I went to school.
Crazy stuff that was being done back then. Yeah, but really, really amazing stuff. Anyways, I'll get off of those 2 movies. But yeah, I mean, those 2 movies really are the epicenter for why I think makeup effects and practical effects can go hand in hand, you know, practical effects and visual effects can go hand in hand when used properly as a tool.
I think there's merit. Like if you take Pacific Rim, right? All those suits were made digitally, but then they 3D printed them out, and then they went back to doing molds and casting and making rubber and making them
legacy
light for
effects.
The
I mean, that's
like
that's
all
their
that.
work.
I love that stuff. That stuff's fantastic. It's the hand thing, right? Again, you're getting back to your hands and building stuff with your hand.
And there's the tangibility, and I totally get the argument of having something practical on set. Like I totally understand that, and I totally get that, because at the end of the day, you are reacting to, there's oh my god, this is that's different than if there actually is a dinosaur there.
Right. Now they just used a big green head that's that height.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Kind of, which then to the actor being able to pull off that. Realism is also props to that person even more.
Of course.
Because then can you imagine just acting a whole movie like you're just sitting here in this green and you're supposed to.
And there's certain actors that just like Brendan Fraser, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Like if you ever see Brendan, like the behind the scenes of Brendan Fraser on the movie, I mean, there's nothing there, and he's like, really? And you really get the sense that he's sticking a knife into something, Like you really
you worked
get
on
that.
300. Were you on the set at all for 300? Because you did.
Brendan was?
No, you worked on 300.
Yeah.
Doing.
I wasn't really on the set. I was there for a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And
so you never got to, because that was just pretty much the whole.
I mean,
I've
I've certainly saw the actors were there, and I certainly saw that, and I saw them all painted in orange and all that goodness, and we had to deal with all of that sort of stuff. That was an interesting film for sure. That was about 12 months of our life over at Meteor Studios, and we did a lot of the Hell's Gate sequence. A lot of the Immortals, and the Giant and.
Right, but then it leads to things like you worked on Happy Feet 2 in Australia.
Yeah.
And then they were doing a lot of mocap there.
Yeah, which I didn't go down for Happy Feet 2. I went down for Max.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Fury Road.
I went down for Fury Road.
Right.
And
you got to meet Charlize.
I did.
And
I did.
At that time,
I got to meet her again recently.
You did? Did she remember you?
I didn't get a chance to. Yeah.
Is she still here? Where is she? And then, but it wasn't Tom Hardy, right? When I first arrived, it wasn't Tom Hardy. Are we even allowed to talk about that? Or
I don't know how much I can tell about the back. I should probably be careful here with how much I tell.
As
about
Paul
this.
brings down Cesar's career with one swoop word.
But yeah, no, I went down because I wanted George Miller. Everybody has a bucket list in this industry, and George Miller was one of those guys. He's in the 80s. He was like, this is gigantic. And I had one particular movie that I was like really fascinated with him. Like I knew of Max, and of course I loved Max.
Do you know how many of my students don't watch those movies? Like they started at Furry Road, and they're
Really?
like, "What? Wait, there's other ones." I'm like,
It's
2 men enter. One man leaves. Hello, come on.
I mean, I'm happy for him that there's a resurgence
Right.
of them going back and looking at that
Yes.
stuff because it certainly deserves it. I mean, it's groundbreaking on every front, and I mean that's why it's as famous as it is. Except Beyond Thunderdome. As much as I love Tina Turner,
Tina Turner, come on, it's the best.
there's elements of Beyond Thunderdome that are like,
But that's the,
you know,
the movie.
but then there's stuff in it that you're like, oh, that's really good. Yeah,
come
yeah.
on, the
But
dome,
then,
the battle's
ooh,
great,
yeah.
and then the around the remember things. That's
But
fantastic.
but yeah,
So you went down there.
But
to
I
work
went
on-
down to work. But yeah, so he did this movie called Lorenzo's Oil. If anybody has seen this movie, it's like it's phenomenal. Like if you're a George Miller fan, you should go watch Lorenzo's Oil. It's unbelievably. There's this kid Vincenzo in it who is like what he did on that movie is just astonishing.
Really?
And but yeah, so I accepted to go down because I wanted to work with George, and it's like it's not like he's making many movies over on this side of the pond. So I was like, okay, let's go to Australia and do this.
Oh, go to Australia.
Yeah, you know, so hard. I mean, it is hard in the sense that it's the other side of the world, and you have to pick up and move.
Sure,
You know,
and
that's
then your
the hard
family
part.
was staying home.
Because you never know, right?
Yeah.
You never know what the situation's going to
Sure.
be like. You don't know what the. Thankfully, it was more than. Sometimes you meet your heroes and you're like, that's what they say, never meet your heroes, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you meet them and it's like, yeah. But George was just
He's amazing.
through the roof, better than I could ever have imagined.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, really great guy. But then it ended up being the rainiest season that Australia had in like, I can't remember, like 40 years or something. And then what is supposed to be wasteland had all of these flowers that popped up in the field. So they couldn't shoot it. So they had to delay it.
That's why it didn't get shot then?
That's why it didn't
Really?
get
That's
shot.
why it
They
didn't
had
get
to
shot then?
delay it because of, yeah.
And that
And then there
was-
was scheduling.
Yeah.
So, you know, because of the actors, and then there was Tom Hardy and Charlize, and then their schedule didn't match, so that there was a delay there. And then they were going to shoot it again in Australia, and once again there was flowers, so they had to move the entire production to South Africa.
How many times does that have a take? Flowers stopped all production.
Yeah.
But
Well,
now
you
you're
can't
talking though. That was like 5 years ago, 4, 5. I wanna
6
say-
years ago. 6 years ago.
Because I went and visited you in Australia.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
So
I think.
was it really 6 years ago? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that was
Crazy, yeah.
yeah, right there. Did
Yeah.
Wow. Again, because then that's how then you got on.
Time
Happy
flies,
Feet
man.
too.
That's the one thing.
right.
Yeah, and then Happy Feet 2 was great, and like we had all these cool things planned. Like one of the things that I did was I did using my practical effects background. I did head casts of all of the entire modeling team.
Really?
So we were all going to be like digi doubles in the cars and like being so yeah. It was
That's awesome.
We had this whole plan and
And then you did while you were there, you took in the environment, doing the 100K walk. How
I
was
did
that?
in the Blue Mountains. That was like one of those life-changing experiences. There's things that you do in life that so Graham came into work one day and he had this he would bike in and he had this flyer and he's like, "Hey, check this out." And the flyer basically said, 100K walk in the Blue Mountains. And it was like kind of like a race. And he's like, "Let's do that." And I'm like, I'm not hard to twist my arm, right? So I was like, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that." And we put
Not thinking about 100K, what that really means.
not at all thinking about like, yeah, let's do it.
No problem.
And it's 100K, but you think of 100K, like I hadn't thought of like, it said there, Blue Mountains. But you think of like 100K like straight.
Yes.
But 100K Blue Mountains going up and down and up and down and up, like is very different than 100K. And then eventually you get out into the bush as well, and it's like you're out in the middle of the wilderness, with just these markers kind of leading your way. But we did it in 38 hours. And barely made it alive. I remember thinking the whole way, like, I want a chicken, I want a chicken, I want a chicken, I want a chicken. And
The entire way from beginning to end?
No. Like probably about midway, I was getting really hungry. And you got snacks and all this sort of stuff. But I was just like, I was craving protein.
But people hallucinate, right? Doing it, right? So maybe you were
between
hallucinating.
between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning,
Yeah.
which is like it's like the darkest, and then at 6 a.m. it starts getting light. My eyes were like totally playing tricks on me. Like we had a little lamplight, and you're out in the middle of the bush, and you're hearing like crackling and stuff,
you hear everything.
and you're
And
totally
it's Australia.
Oh
It's the
man,
wilderness.
I was like totally like
Scorpions,
hallucinating and like just seeing things like running around. It was like that was like the
Purple
worst.
elephants.
That was the worst part for sure. For sure, that was the worst part.
Some of your because you went in a group, right? So there was four of you.
We went in
right?
4, and we all had our moment to break down.
Right.
One of the guys, Bo, had a horrible fear of heights. So there's like these vertical ladders that you got to go up and down, and we were going down these ladders, and like we had to sandwich them so that one person would go behind them and one person would go around, and we would like hold around them so that we
Really?
took one. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like probably 10K of it. Like just it slowed us down a lot.
Do you want to
just
share your moment?
I don't know whether I want to share it, but I had my moment. Let's just say that that stuff started rubbing and it started hurting. And
well, you had your feet.
and around the 80K mark was where I was the last one to break down. And the way I got through the last 20K was I would sit down and I would let them walk ahead, and I would wait. And they would walk, I don't know, 500 yards, whatever. Then I'd get up and I'd sprint, because what I realized was that if I walked, I was taking more steps than whether I was then just sprinting.
Right.
So then I would just sprint like a madman, catch up to them, and then sit down, and then let them walk. And then
can you imagine somebody watching this from the distance?
It was just
let's do a far shot film. See a bunch of 3 guys walking. There's a guy sitting. Also, he goes sprints and then sits back down and then does it again.
But that was the way to get through it.
Well, you prepped by not running with no shoes, didn't you? You did a lot of running.
I did a lot of running
behind your apartment.
Yeah. So I used to live right by the Fox Studio in Sydney,
where Animal Logic is.
Yeah, where Animal Logic is, and across there's this park called Centennial Park, and we used to, it's about 10K around.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome. I went on a run when I was there. Yeah.
I used to go running around the park all the time, and then a friend suggested running bare feet because that would
create calluses
so that you could handle it. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like
brilliant.
A good idea. It wasn't such a good idea.
No?
No. How many
times did you do it?
I think I did it twice. And then I was just like, no.
It hurts too much.
It hurts way too, and I certainly couldn't run. It was kind of like, ow, 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 Right. And it's Australia, right? So it's like even by sunset, the pavement was still like blistering hot. So it was like half on the pavement, half on the grass, half on.
But if I remember that park, there was also horses that walked those trails and everything too.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
But it's
all coming back to Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now.
But it was an amazing experience because at the end of the day, when you arrive,
yes.
I mean, if you think about it, as human evolution, we didn't do anything. I mean, those people that
they had no shoes, and they traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast in the United States.
You know what I mean? Like what we did was nothing.
We don't have an air conditioner now. Yeah. We're all crying and tasting salt in the morning on our pillow. It's ridiculous.
But it certainly changed my idea of what pain was.
Sure.
And the threshold for pain for me, like.
But then that's why you do things like that in life, because then you start learning more, and you're learning who you are as a person, and start pushing yourself in different ways.
And it totally, and in hindsight, if I hadn't done that, like when Grace got sick, if I hadn't done that, then I don't think I could have handled because again, that's that pain threshold.
So can we get into that with Grace?
Sure.
Because obviously it's near to me too. I'm almost choking up here because when I was in Australia, the day I was flying, I was leaving. And you found out literally about the moment the taxi was coming picking me up for the airport. Yeah. And my heart didn't just get ripped out of my chest; it fell to the floor, and I kicked it and stepped on it because I was like, "What the heck? How I can't leave this guy because you didn't have any in your family; you were by yourself." Yeah. And you found out Grace had a major health problem. I don't know if you want to what she has, so people understand it and a little bit what it does to people.
So I'll start with explaining what it actually is because I think that's the best way to do it. So Grace ended up was the first case ever. We were living in Brazil at the time, so Grace was diagnosed with anti-NMDR receptor encephalitis, which is basically just an autoimmune encephalitis, and she was the first case ever diagnosed in Brazil. And now, the reason this is kind of incredible was that when she was essentially the guinea pig, right, of finding out what she had. And so we said we won the bad luck lotto and we won the good luck lotto at the same time, because the chances of actually discovering what she had was just astronomical. And obviously everything goes back to this one particular moment where my life completely changed, and that's one of the reasons why I disappeared off of the face,
Right.
and I stopped doing interviews, and
You stopped all work.
I stopped.
Period.
Yeah.
You moved back home.
Yeah.
Went with the family. Yeah.
And it's just ultimately when you get sick and you go to the hospital, what doctors do is they search for viral pathogens. They're searching for what is making you ill. So they do blood work and they do this and they do that. But what they don't check for is autoimmune, because why would you? Why would you check for autoimmune?
Right.
Autoimmune doesn't make sense. So of course, every single test and exam that they did on her came back as if she was fine, because there was nothing wrong with her in terms of a viral pathogen or an infection or any of those things that should be there. But yet slowly but surely she was disappearing. It started with her having seizures and flu-like symptoms, and then having seizures, which led her going to the doctor. And I still, to this day, I can't say that there was one particular thing that said to me, this is so urgent. It wasn't like my wife said, when my wife called me, this, like, Grace was in a car accident and she's in intensive care. Right. It wasn't at that state at that moment.
It was more she passed out, if I remember.
Yeah,
right.
she's passed out and she's not well.
We don't know why she's passing out.
But I've got 3 kids, and anybody that's ever had kids at some point will have a kid go through a seizure. And so you ask the pertinent questions. Did she have a fever? Did she have this? Did she have that? And when all those things started coming back negative, there was red flags that were going off in my head. And then I told her, take her back to the hospital, which, she did, and then you went off, and then one thing progressed to another, and she was continuously having these seizures, and nobody was having any responses for them. And the doctors, I think one of the things that made me realize I had to go home was that the doctors weren't taking my wife seriously, and they were saying that she was, in fact, the one that was inventing these types of things to which there are syndromes out there with parents that are sick and whatnot. Yeah. But clearly this wasn't one of those cases. So every fiber in my body said, I got to go back. I got to go back to Brazil. So I remember I ordered a ticket, went into work, told them, guys, sorry, my daughter's sick. This and this and this is happening. I got to go. There's something going on with her brain. And it was like the longest flight ever, because I had to get like this weird connection thing.
It took me long anyways.
Yeah, but it took me like what usually is like a 30-hour flight or whatever. It took me almost 2 days to get home. And whenever I'm away from my kids, whenever I get home, you have this amazing, like, wow, the kids are like, Dad,
Right.
So I was totally expecting that type of thing. And when I got home and my daughter didn't have that reaction, in fact, I had this very weird reaction, I knew we were in trouble. And that I don't want to make this a long thing, but that basically led to about a 30-day decline where her kidneys failed, all her internal organs failed. She died twice in the hospital. She was in intensive care. I mean, she was slipping away, and there was
you guys had to send like blood through UPS.
Yeah,
FedEx
so the way it ended up, eventually. We found 2 doctors that took us seriously. One of them was, they were telling us that what was wrong with Grace was neurological, and or that what was wrong with Grace was emotional. I was like, I don't think it's emotions, because
that's where a lot of these people end up, is they go into a psychiatric ward.
They end up in psychiatric wards.
They're
exactly.
just being misdiagnosed.
Absolutely, and it's terrifying because. What we've discovered is that this isn't rare, it's misdiagnosed. So essentially there could be millions
like
of—
a high number, like 30-40%, right? Something
Oh,
crazy,
more than that. Like even more than that, because it presents itself right away. It presents itself as emotional. The way it affects you is emotionally first, and psychosis and psychotic is one of the first things that comes up. So they were like, your daughter needs to go to a mental hospital.
One of the doctors was in Montana, or?
No, Pennsylvania.
And then the other one was?
So the other doctor was local.
Okay.
And he's the one that believed us and was like fighting with the hospital. And then the hospital finally accepted us and took us in. And then my uncle is a cardiologist. And he was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. He owns a nuclear imaging clinic that he does images of hearts. And he's like, well, I can do an image of a brain, but that doesn't, I'm not going to be able to diagnose it. But if you allow me to do the image of the brain, then I can send it to people that know, right? So through some negotiation with the hospital, that ended up happening. And that image went off to these people.
Guy in Pennsylvania, right?
Well, it ended up going to these doctors first, and then they were like, well, when my uncle called me, he was like, this is bad news. You got to prepare yourself. Essentially, she's going to die, And I was like, no, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. And then he said, but one of my colleagues read this article the night before. This is like one of those hair raising moments.
Wow.
Right? The night before, I read this article by this doctor, Dr. Dalma, who's in Pennsylvania. And would you mind if we send him this exact same images and everything, the history to him? And I was like, no, do it. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. And within an hour, he wrote back and he said, 99.9% sure this is anti-NMDR receptor encephalitis. Here's what I need. I need liquor from the spine and I need the white cells separated from her blood. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. Just get them to me. Went to the hospital. The hospital was like, look, we can do both of those things, but we can't send it. And I was like, give it to me. I'll send it. I don't care. So I did a present within a present, like wrapping it up, like just and then I sent it off in FedEx. And then that day it was like hitting like F5, like refresh.
Right.
And I remember it landing in Miami and waiting to see like because it's biological material, it can't go through, they won't accept it. Now they've got ways to do it, but back then they didn't. Again, she was the first one.
Yeah.
And then hitting that and it going through,
especially coming from Brazil.
Yeah, and then it was like another maybe 8 hours before it arriving there, and then them having it, and then again within maybe 2 hours we had the response, 100%. This is what. Yeah. So and the way they treat it is chemotherapy. So they kill off your immune system for 6 months. They just reset it because obviously she was fine before, and then she wasn't fine then.
Yeah.
So they did. She
restarted the body.
Yeah, and they restarted.
And she's doing amazing.
She's amazing. I mean, she's.
Let's pull herself out of the sadness.
Yeah, no. She's 16. She's 16. Amazing. She's going to an art school where she does dance and acting and everything.
She's
and
full
drama.
of life.
She loves it. Loves it.
But that led you into things like Squid Zone. And led you into your school ultimately.
That led me into my school. That led me into lots of different things. I mean, when you kind of go through that, you have a reevaluation of your priorities of what you what you think is important in life and whatnot.
I'm upset because I didn't get those shoes I went to go buy. And
exactly.
give me a break.
Exactly.
Let's really look at our lives and see what we're doing.
But yeah, no, that led me ultimately to start thinking about different things, and one of them was Phoenix Atelier, and which we launched 5 years ago, and it was amazing, and have this amazing roster of talented artists that come in. The idea of the school is not just to teach VFX, but anything art related. So. We pulled the site, so it's about to go back live again. We're in beta right now with a new site. We're going to be launching with a brand new program with Ryan Darling, who's doing this amazing, like I kid you not, university level program on medical illustration.
Yep.
It's just ridiculous how good it is. Like there's nothing out there even remote. Like this isn't like watch me work stuff. This is like literally university level programmings, master programmings, and that's really what we're about. At the end of the day, it's really about teaching, and that's our fun. So like our programs, you can't just come and just watch the movies. Like our programs are totally interactive. Like everything's drip fed. You can't just come in and like skip to the end. Like you
watch the 10 videos and then be done with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's assignments, there's homework, there's grading.
Did you incorporate Squid Zone into that? Are you doing anything that's Squid Zone?
So the Squid Zone came out of Grace. Came
right.
out of Grace. So what ended up happening was I really didn't want, like, I had dropped out. Like, I didn't want to do anything industry-wise.
Yeah.
And
I can't believe you're focusing on your family and Grace.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Grace got all of a sudden fine in a month.
No,
it was years.
No, it was years.
Then you guys have to monitor this for the rest of her life now and make sure, she
Absolutely.
monitors it
Yeah,
herself
I mean,
too.
anytime she has a headache, we have to worry.
Right.
Anytime now. But But with
You had an idea. People didn't know the disease, right?
Yeah.
And because of all the people that ended up in cycle wards and things like that, you wanted to look, people, there's this thing out there.
when you you can't help but anytime you have something tragic happen, you go,
Yeah.
why me? Why me? Why me? Those are the first questions you
Absolutely.
have. You just you can't help but have that reaction. And then eventually the why me question changes and you start asking like, well, why did this happen at all? And why Grace? And why, so there's been like lots of things. Like one of the like a more recent thing, which is really, really interesting, which is absolutely amazing, which brings us back to Charlize. So when I left, I sat down with George Miller, and George, before he became a director, he was a doctor, so he has a lot of interest in the medical side of things, and we talked a lot about what happened to Grace, and we kept a close connection and ties with that, and he ended up purchasing this book called Brain on Fire, which was a #1 bestseller and was turned into a movie. Now, the way it got turned into a movie was he told Charlize Theron about Grace and told her about the book that he was reading called Brain on Fire. Charlize bought Brain on Fire and turned it into a movie.
Really?
When we moved to Toronto, they had the premiere of it in March. We had just moved to Toronto, the whole family there. So we went to the premiere. Charlize got to meet Grace, which started this whole thing and it becoming a movie. So that's like one of those like wide, again, hair-raising. Like, why did this happen type of thing,
Yeah.
So this movie is out there in part because of
That whole conversation.
and Grace and what happened to her.
Holy moly.
But yeah, there's all sorts of things of that nature. But one of the things again that you discover quite quickly, there's a group online on Facebook specifically. There's this amazing woman, Nasreen, who deals with this every single day, and God bless her because I couldn't do it. There's an emotional toll that I can come in there and kind of jump in and do it, but too much of it, I find it just. It's hard, man, because you start reliving everything. Like just watching the movie to me was like extremely difficult. I couldn't separate myself from the movie of what had happened to us.
Yeah.
But these types of moments, these types of things that are happening out there are really important because this particular group on Facebook, what we ended up discovering was that there wasn't one family joining. All of a sudden, there was 2 families, 3 families, 5 families, 10 families, 100 families. So the more people are being diagnosed and the more people are discovering this and finding out about this and learning about it through like just this casual conversation, all of a sudden, you're now discovering this isn't rare at all. Not at all. It's a very, very big issue out there. In fact, so much so that in terms of encephalitis, it's now the #1 encephalitis that's being diagnosed in the world.
Wow.
And that's insane.
That's insane. Think about how many years before that, how many people had this.
So the why all of a sudden becomes, oh my God, I need to tell people about this because there's potentially families out there that are dealing with this right now.
They have no idea.
Other dads that have kids in this situation, or their parents, or their brother, or their sister, or whatever.
Now that I have a daughter, I watch. I'm a crybaby. I watch movies and stuff, and something just if I see a kid kind of get hurt, and all of a sudden I have tears, I'm like, what the heck? I'm like. It's Peanuts. It's Charlie Brown. Why am I crying? Kind of a thing.
And it's a hard thing to talk about. Like nobody wants to talk about down things, and I get that. So the Squid Zone came out of the idea of like, well, why don't I sit down with my colleagues and friends and people that I know in the industry,
in the special effects,
and then at the end, like have them like autograph something, or some people have been kind to like donate something, and then they go to the site and then they can find out more about this particular type of autoimmune. But yeah. It's never gone up. And the reason, let me explain why it hasn't gone up. Obviously, I did it because I was passionate at the time and I wasn't thinking logically. And as soon as I started editing these things, Grace started going back to school. And what I discovered was she was Grace had to grow up again. She learned how to walk again, how to talk again, how to write. I mean, everything that you start again.
She had to do everything
again. And what I discovered was that I couldn't put anything out there that could potentially form like bullying or doing, so we had to be really
detrimental to her.
in terms of her progress.
It's putting the light on her.
Exactly. Exactly.
Unfortunately, but it is because that's where it all started.
So I just said, you know what? I can't do this. I can't do this to her. So as a father, I made the choice. No, I'm not going to put these videos. We've got 50 interviews that are done.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick Baker, Joe Dante, Dennis Murin, just
Jordy Shell.
It's
endless.
It's endless in terms. Steve
Spaz
Williams. I mean, it's endless in terms of the people that we interviewed, and I do plan to put these up, but I needed Grace's approval, and now she's at a place where she went to Brain on Fire. She saw what it's all about. She saw the movie. We've had deep conversations about it. So now she's in a mindset where she's ready to deal with that sort of stuff. So now we can start talking about putting it up.
She's what, 16 now?
She's 16.
16. Yeah. So that's good.
So yeah, it was a dark chapter of my life, but an important chapter of my life that completely made me reevaluate who I was as an artist and what was important to me and where I fit in this whole industry. So essentially, I restarted my career and came back
doing the same thing. You went.
Now
you were dark there, and you didn't do
Yeah.
anything because you were too busy focused on family, which is completely understandable. And then you got back in the industry and started slowly working your way back, and now you're at SpinVFX.
I'm at SpinVFX. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm their creature character supervisor over there. I do all the design work. And that's primarily what I've been focused in the past. I'd say the past 3 years has been more design.
And you're back in Canada.
And I am, and I'm in Toronto. We moved the whole family in Toronto, and it's going really well. Yeah,
and now your son's getting into all this as well.
My son is. Everybody's getting old.
They're Spin right there. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. Yeah, they're
good job, buddy.
If you've seen The Expanse.
There you are. No, I'm just kidding. Totally looks like you for a minute. His pause right there. Hey, how did you get on their site? Oh, I just watched this the other
night.
Did
you? What'd you think?
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch it. I'm wide awake because I got back from class. I'm like, it's a shark movie. It was cool. It had its moments and
it's fun. I thought it was a fun shark movie. It's one of the better of those. Nothing beats Jaws, but it was one of
no, nothing's ever gonna beat Jaws.
And it's got some brilliant work in it. It's brilliant work. We're I got the okay to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we're doing. Like we're working on Disney's Descendants 2 right now, which is huge because my youngest, I've always done, my entire career has been I've done one movie for me and one movie for my kids. So Allie
Happy Feet 2 was your movie? Is that what
yeah, that was for me. But Allie, I hadn't really done like the dedication movie. Right. I hadn't done like the one like this is your movie. I hadn't done that. So the Descendants 2 became this is your, and she was like such a huge
She's
fan.
A massive
of that.
fan. She loves
gigantic. Just massive fan of the first one. So I got to sit her down and it's like, hey, so Dad's working on it, and she's like, what? Yeah, and she went mental, and it was really cool. So I got to design the dragon on that, and there's some other stuff that I can't tell. So I designed and sculpted it and pushed it through, and we're like it's a Disney dragon, but it's fantastic. We're really, really excited about that. We're doing Shannara Chronicles right now, and there's like some beasties and stuff we're doing. We're doing The Expanse, which is just like it's blowing up right now.
It's a great show. I haven't seen the second season yet, but I watched all the first season.
Oh man, the second season's great, and the third season's even better. And it's just
it's a good show. I enjoy it. Sci-fi.
You know what's great about it is that it deals with what I think a lot of really relevant issues. And that's what I like about it. It's sci-fi, but yet it deals with, I think, human conditioning, and in terms of the politicking and all that. I really dig that side of the smart writing. And it's slowly but surely, man. It's like picking up momentum like mad as of late. So we're really, really excited and happy about that. And the work that we're doing, not because I'm working there. It is. It's ridiculous.
You're back living in the house you grew up in.
I am. Yeah. I bought my dad's house.
Yeah.
It
all comes back.
I don't know whether it's we did some searching, and we were looking at different neighborhoods and where we would go and whatnot, and it's still the old neighborhood just still feels like a good old shirt.
Yeah. So what do you think's next for you now? What do you see yourself doing? after continue obviously working at Spin.
I'm super excited to be at Spin. I mean, I think the company is right on track for really making a name for themselves. I mean, they've been around forever. Not that they don't have a name, but in terms of the character work and what they're pushing and their pipeline and the components, the people that they brought together, exciting, like really, really exciting behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, I think it's all about the people. Your company, when it comes to tech, like everybody's got the same tech. Everybody's got the same programs. Everybody's got the same,
But not everybody has a Cesar.
Thank you. Yeah, but I mean, that's true. I mean, at the end of the day,
that's what separates.
That's what separates. It's really the artistry and the people and what they bring to the table. And I think that the team that's been already assembled and being assembled, like the new pieces that are coming, are like hands down, we're going to be a major contender. So watch out for us for sure.
Sure, and you're out here for Monster Palooza this weekend.
Out here for Monster,
which everyone should go if you're a huge sci-fi.
Well, I'm a monster guy, right? Like I'm a
monsters.
I'm a monster
your
guy.
Your favorite movie is Gremlins, and Gizmo is your diehard. So you like the furry cute guy that compared to.
I don't know. I don't know why Gizmo was so appealing to me, but he still is. And it's funny, like I don't have the same.
He's cute, especially in the car.
And you know how much I love Rick Baker, and I don't have the same.
Speaking of a super nice guy in the industry,
fantastic guy,
ridiculous.
Fantastic guy,
how nice a guy he is. He's always open to talk to people.
But I don't have the same connectivity with Gremlins 2 and with terms of Gizmo. There's something about
really when he does the Rambo stuff.
I mean, it's great. I mean, all of it is great,
and all the different ones.
But there's still something about the Chris Wallace version, that first one, that just it feels real. It feels tangible. Like the scene of like Gizmo in the bathroom with Billy, and he's hurt and he's going, and it just feels.
Do it one more time?
I mean, it feels amazing.
I don't know if that's Gizmo.
That wasn't
I told you we get impressions going here. I told you it happened. I told you.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was just one of those things.
Do you notice every time, by the way, I'm sorry, every time you grab your bottle of water, I grab mine because it's like, you're drinking. I'm going to drink as well.
It's a subliminal, and I'm almost done.
By the way, how are we doing the time? Because we'll just sit here and talk for literally 5 hours. I'm not kidding.
We got another half an hour.
All right.
Cool.
All right.
We
got time.
We got
what?
Hour and 15.
Oh, all right. We're good. We're good. So Gremlins.
Yeah, so Gremlins, phenomenal on every front, man. On every front.
Is that your favorite '80s movie of all time?
Oh,
yeah, I'm throwing it out there.
Oh,
I know how much you like some other movies. Just give the people like your top 5. Like if someone like our friend, our friend like Mr. Ernest that wasn't allowed to watch movies in the '80s, and we started educating Ernest. Come over to my house, miking him up. By the way, if you have friends that do this, it's one of the most entertaining things ever to do. You got to do this. So the first night we mic'd Ernest up.
Yeah.
We put 3 cameras.
2 cameras.
And we did a marathon of like Ernest you've never seen. Like, and you guys have to understand, this guy has not seen really any major movie in the 80s. Like he had seen like all the Star Wars, Goonies, anything from Steven Spielberg he saw. Yeah. That was the only thing really that he's seen. So we did the horror night once, right? We did Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then we did Hellraiser. Right? No.
Was that? No, it wasn't Hellraiser.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I do remember that moment when we all know when Jason jumps out of the water at the end. And he doesn't know it's happening. Yeah. Come on, if someone hasn't seen Friday the 13th by now, the original, not the remake. It was the funniest thing to see a 30-something-year-old guy jump, and he happened to be eating like chips at the time or something. So it was hysterical. And then, actually, that wasn't the first night. That was the second night. The first night, going back to Gremlins, right? We did 5 movies.
Yeah, we did that.
We did 5 movies.
We did. Yeah.
We mixed it all over the place, right? And one of the movies we watched was Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
And he refused to watch Gremlins.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to be, Phoebe can't. No, it was the other way around. We watched Gremlins, and he refused to watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High because we told her, we told him that she goes topless for a second. He's like, I can't do it. Nope, can't do it. She's beautiful. I like her the way she is. I'm like, she's married to Kevin Kline. You're talking like 30 years ago, dude. You can watch it. So back to it. If that happened again, if someone came to you and go, Cesar, what are the movies that are a must, absolute, you can't miss it, 80s movies that you would watch? And is there reasons for it?
You got to go with Poltergeist first. Not that it would be number one. I don't know how to organize these.
But there doesn't need to be an organization here at all.
But yeah, I mean, that's still one of those movies that every time I never get tired of watching.
Sad about her too, and what happened to her
of course.
in real
Heather,
life, and then the older sister in real life too.
But just one of those movies that ridiculous.
It was out
the
there.
Acting,
it was
everything,
completely different, and she was amazing. Oh my god, she was like what 5 or 6? She was incredible.
Heather Rook,
incredible in that movie.
E.T. You got to put E.T. in there because E.T. is just again one of those movies. I remember E.T. E.T. had like scary at the beginning, and you didn't know what it was, and the hand, behind the tree, and all that, and the weird like and all that stuff.
See how many times you can get things out of Cesar for what's your next one? Raptor.
Critters.
Oh yeah, most people don't know that one.
You got to do
There's
Critters.
a lot of people that don't know that. Do you guys even know Critters? The young ones that are in Kyle does.
Yeah.
Kingsley has no clue. No, Ghoulies. He brought Ghoulies out.
Ghoulies, yeah.
But you've seen Critters, right? No, see, that's a fun one. I love that one. They had like 8 of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
What was the one
Kyoto
with,
Brothers.
it was the, why am I going blank on it right now, where it was the little slug and then jumped in your mouth and then turned you
Night
into
of the
a-
Creeps.
Night of the Creeps, that's what it was. That's
Yeah,
what I'm trying to remember.
it was on my list. It was
It
coming.
was?
Night of the Creeps.
Man,
Yeah,
look at
Night
that.
of the Creeps.
Oh, well do I know
You've
you.
got one of the greatest lines in the world. Thrill me.
Yeah.
Thrill me. Yeah, it was just great. It was great.
Most people haven't seen that movie, I would have to say.
And again, it's one of those movies that it's absolutely brilliant because it starts. Okay, you've got an alien creature. It's in outer space. Sending these slugs off.
Mm-hmm.
Then you land on Earth, and it's like the 50s, and you're in black and white. The movie starts in black and white.
It reminded me of Thriller.
Yeah, and then absolutely 100%.
Totally
I never
thought it
equated, but absolutely 100%. And then you come to like present day, and it's like,
Which, by the way, Rick Baker did Thriller. A lot of people don't know that either. He did all the makeup for Thriller.
and then you've got
I felt the need to drop that.
you've got an axe murderer, you've got you've got zombies in it, you've got exploding heads, you've got alien slugs, you've got
Let's not forget an exploding head. Why going to the bathroom? Right?
everything in one movie. It's just so much fun. And then years later, there's an homage to it, right? Which is James Gunn's movie Slither, which I worked on, and that that was kind of like the starting of his career. And then obviously now he's doing these tiny movies that nobody knows about. Nobody cares. There's like Volume 2 coming out, but who cares? I'm not even going to mention it.
Don't even do it. Next month, right? It comes out next month.
Yeah.
Kyle would know. Kyle? May 5th, right? May 5th.
Yeah,
Kyle's already got the soundtracks, the
like
t-shirts
that.
ready to go.
Yeah.
Kyle's probably one of those guys who showed up in the theater. He's got the shirt on. Let's do this. Who's going? Come on. You're coming with.
And then of course,
Which is fine. I love it.
the fifth one you already know, which is Gremlins. So I mean, to me, like if I had to pick, and then see, this is why I can't
no
pick.
Goonies.
No, but this is why I can't pick, because then outside of that, see, like most of the things I'm going to pick are like the horror genre, because
Okay.
those are the things that I love.
Sure.
But then outside of that,
Yeah, go ahead.
you've
Throw
got,
it at me.
and I have to continue is Fright Night, and Fright Night's huge.
You can
for
go
me.
all day. We can
You
talk
know.
about 80s forever again. So
Fright Night, well,
go ahead.
you know we can.
Yeah.
I mean, Fright Night's huge. I mean, it's one of those movies that, again, to me, has it all. I mean,
Fright
Evil Ed is like ridiculous. That character is just,
he was so great.
Yeah, Stephen Jeffries. I mean, amazing. Yeah, I mean, the 80s for me were just perfect. And I was talking about this again the other day with a buddy of mine in terms of what was it about 80s movies that were so appealing. And I think there's two things that really nail it for me in terms of the tech side of the 80s. First of all, I think there was more left up to the imagination, which means
You had to.
which means they didn't show as much.
Right.
I think the effects weren't as real. So it allowed you to laugh. Where I think some of the gags are so real now that we have like a gasp instead of a laugh.
It's
where
got
you're
more
like
gross.
Yeah, where you're
horror.
just like oh, and
Right.
like you feel like even weird seeing it
Yeah.
versus the stuff in the 80s because it was like you would have that scare, but then you would like follow it with like ha.
I
you know?
also think it is you walked out of the theater, and you had to go to the theater.
Yeah.
And then number 2, you walked out going, how the heck did they do
No,
that?
but a lot of those,
Too.
like a couple of those movies, they didn't do well in the theater. Like
No.
they were store
Listen, my
rentals.
all-time favorite movie did
Yeah.
horrible in the theater, but I still think it's the greatest movie ever made.
Was
and
it-
won't
which
be
is?
top. Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. I met what's his name?
Frank Darabont?
No.
I have 1 degree of separation right now.
The
degree.
driver,
1
the
degree.
kid, the
Oh,
car.
yeah.
What's his name?
Billy.
Billy, yeah.
But I don't remember his name.
He
in
was
real
on
life right
Ally
now.
McBeal. I met him. He came by the studio.
I've
the
had
other day.
conversations with William Sadler
Yeah.
back and forth a little way back when I started writing my book, but it's not about me, it's about you. But what is your all-time favorite
But
movie?
he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice
What
guy.
is your all-time like? If someone like, and hands down, anybody says to me, Paul, what's your all-time favorite movie? Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
I don't even have to think twice about it. I don't know what it is about that movie, but it just pulls me.
Oh, and it's a
in.
great one. It's a fantastic one.
I've probably seen it 100 times, if
Yeah.
not 1,000 times. Okay, and then if it's on TV, I stop and
You
I
have to.
watch it. There's those sets of movies you stop and you watch. And
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's on TV. I've seen it 8 times or 1,000 times, and then everyone always, Paul, seriously, you're watching this again? Like, just enjoy. Sit down and enjoy.
You have, like one of my great pleasures right now is that my kids, I get to sit down
my
and
God, I
like
can't
show
wait
them
for this.
80s movies.
What is
and I get to watch
what do
them.
you show them? What have you shown
Oh,
them?
I like almost everything at this point. Like and I'm rewatching some movies.
Are you
So-
doing like the Disney? Did you do the Disney stuff when they were little too and everything?
Oh yeah. We did the whole princess thing, and my kids still, my 16-year-old
Princess
still
Bride?
loves. Yeah, Princess Bride. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I mean, Princess Bride. There's another movie. It's like. My name is
Hello, you killed my father. Prepare to die. Hello, my name is Antonio Montoya. You've killed my father. Now prepare to die.
I mean, it's
It's
just
a horrible accent that I just did, but dang it, people know that movie.
I mean, never bet on the Sicilian.
The Giants in it. Come on, the Giants.
It's just-
He's picking
it's
up
just like-
fake rocks and throwing them. It's
every
the
single,
best.
yeah. I mean,
Especially
that's
the
just one
boat
of
scene.
amazing.
It's actually like a boat in a tub. You see it coming up. I love that stuff.
That's brilliant. It's
I
brilliant.
I cannot wait to sit
I
and
showed
watch
my
that stuff
son
with my
Spinal Tap the other day.
You did?
This
Because
is
he's
Spinal
19,
Tap.
Jordan, he's 19 now, right?
Yeah, well, okay, maybe it wasn't the other day. It was like last year. But he was like, "What is this?" at first, and then now he's like, "Oh my god!" And all his references are like, "Oh, turn it up to 11," and he just loves it.
And you gotta love
He
that.
just loves it.
You
He
gotta
just loves it. So
So then what is your all-time favorite?
I can't pick, man.
You can't pick one?
I can't.
Why
pick
can no one ever
one.
pick one?
I can't.
Do you
It's
guys
just
have
like
an all-time favorite? I asked you that question. Kyle, what's yours all-time favorite if I asked you? Jurassic Park. See how hard that was, Cesar? It wasn't hard.
I
You just gotta
can't. I
pick
can't.
one.
Because they're
you just gotta
all-
go out there and reach out and grab that movie and bring it in.
they're all equals in my mind. Really,
Oh,
they are.
God
I mean,
bless
Friday.
them,
I mean,
Lover of Pearls.
how do you say? Friday the 13th. Like
Okay, let's go maybe
Let's
by
talk about
viewership.
like
How many
Friday.
times have
Friday
you
the
seen
13th.
Gremlins compared to anything else?
Oh, more than any.
Okay,
other.
Gremlins is your all-time favorite movie. I just gave it to you. Problem solved. I don't know what this. Kingsley, do you have
Gremlins.
one?
Gremlins.
Kingsley
I think
doesn't. Mike, you
Gremlins.
got one back there? No. It's too hard. What is this too?
I think Gremlins and Close Encounters of the Third Kind are
Kind.
probably right there.
Okay,
I
it's
mean,
fine. I'll give it to
you know what? If I had to pick the two, and I'm sorry, Chris, because Chris Solis is
Wallace,
a friend
He's
now.
listening.
If I had to pick one of the two, I guess it would be Close Encounters because I've been to like Devil's Tower like twice, and I've never like visited any other
Well, speaking
locations.
of Chris, what about The Fly?
I mean, gigantic, right? I mean, phenomenal.
Jeff Goldblum again.
Yeah,
Bringing it back to Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, and that work. I mean, it won him an Oscar.
Watch this.
right?
Kingsley, have you seen The Fly?
Oh,
Kyle, have you seen The Fly? He's seen it.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. it's-
yeah.
This is what we live, though. This is our age coming into play. And then the big excuse usually for kids is, I wasn't alive then.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and I wasn't alive when 12 Angry Men came out, or Gone with the Wind came out, or Casablanca came out, or any of those, and I still... Rear Window is one of my all-time favorite
Oh my
movies.
God!
And I
You
wasn't
kidding me?
alive, but I
My
still
daughter Grace is named after Grace Kelly. You kidding me?
Stop. My daughter's named after Lola, which is in Bombshell, which is 1938, because my wife was pregnant at the time watching that. And it was middle of the night because Lola was up kicking her and stuff. And that movie came on and she's like, and that name was in my wife's head.
Ah.
And then she saw it over and over again. Every month she saw the name Lola. So that's part of the reason.
Just made sense.
Lola, that's why you're named Lola. And
That's
ironically, my daughter's middle name is Grace.
Ah.
Oh, there you go.
Subliminal there.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, those, I mean, Grace, God.
What about now? What would you say movies in the last 10 years have been like, that is a groundbreaking, holy moly movie for you? Because now we're in full-fledged, all the stuff we've been talking about, we're now in this where we're sitting in front of a green stage and we can put you dancing in a hula back here in Hawaii if we want to right now. Like,
I have a problem.
I have one. I could already have one.
I think
Again, impressions.
I have a hard time again with
Really?
with what, like, as of late, that has just been like, whoa, that movie. Like I loved what Miller did with Max.
Okay.
I thought that was great.
There, yeah.
But ultimately, I think why that movie was great was the editing style. And this goes back to that, what I was talking about in terms of what I think made movies great in the 80s. I think filmmakers nowadays rely on fast cuts
more than the
story to create pacing.
Sure. Have you ever seen a Transformer transform?
Nope.
Remember, I could never keep up with it.
And that's just it. It's too, everything's about fast, and I think we relate to movies. Oh, The Arrival. I thought that was amazing. I thought Arrival was amazing. Why? Slow. It allowed me to breathe it in, take it in.
You want to know why?
Understand.
There was a story, and then there was something you were following. You know what it is for me? Inception.
Yeah. Inception's great.
Hands down, that movie changed.
I mean, Dark Knight. I mean, if we're going to go there, Dark Knight.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
they're both amazing, right? But that movie, Inception, when I saw it, and I think this is the point of movie making. You are supposed to walk away from a movie and go, and have a thought, have an emotion, and have something there.
My story with Inception, you and I went to watch it for the first time and I fell asleep.
Yeah, well.
At the theater.
How was it?
It was great. It was great.
But speaking of that, Kingsley fell asleep in the theater last time we watched Ghost in the Shell. I look over.
Wow, but that one makes sense because I've seen Inception since. I don't know what it was.
In his mouth or something like that.
I don't know what it was, but yeah,
I love Inception. That's another of those movies again I can watch over and over and over and over again.
Memento.
Well, yeah, same guy.
I mean, same guy.
He's redoing that again, by the way.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been greenlit. I think it's already on IMDb.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But those are the movies. See, that's why I still think
I'm not a fan of revisiting. I know there's a lot.
So then you're not a fan of remaking like Total Recall.
No.
Which I want to.
Which isn't Total Recall. Which isn't Total Recall.
I want to flip this
like
table.
Fright Night.
There's no Mars. How do you not go to Mars? Speaking right now, Michael, audio guy, is just upset right now because my voice has just gone up so much more because that movie, I'm like, and for the people that worked on it, I'm sorry, but it's not Total Recall unless you go to Mars.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Well, I mean, we were talking about this on the way in with Ghost in the Shell. The thought that I have is I don't understand why you need to invent new stuff. Or if you are going to invent new stuff to put it in the movie, why not actually make it relevant to the storyline in terms of,
and some movies were made during that period for a reason. They're trying to say a story for that time period.
Exactly.
And you can't just plop it back in now.
Exactly.
And just hope it works again.
It's one of my concerns. Like once again, it's on the lips of everybody in terms of doing Akira, and maybe this isn't
made so many times.
I know, but maybe this time it actually won't go through because
all Ghost in the Shell's doing.
Yeah. But it concerns me that they're just going to make it like a VFX romp, which it's suited for, and it can do really, really well in terms of that front. But I hope they don't. But I am excited about other stuff that's coming out. Like I'm excited for the new Blade Runner. I'm excited about.
I'm so worried about that one.
The new Alien Covenant.
I'm so worried about that one too.
Those are
Did
two
you watch
movies.
Life? I heard Life is amazing.
I saw Life. I thought it was good.
But I heard it's a good alien movie.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's very it's very bleak in terms of its message, You know?
Welcome to Paul and Cesar's movie conversation. Now
Yeah, I mean it's very bleak.
Podcast,
It's very bleak in terms of the message it's saying. But at the end of the day,
I'm so worried about Blade Runner though. Have you ever watched Dangerous Days, the documentary?
No.
Oh my love.
Oh no, yes I
You
did.
have,
Yes I
right?
did. Yes I did. Of course I have.
If you have never seen it, and I'm looking straight at the mic like I'm actually talking to the audience right now, you got to go watch.
talking to you. Yeah, you and your underwear.
You wearing that T-shirt, that red T-shirt with the hole right there on the shoulder. That right now you're touching your shoulder delt instead of the T. Yeah, you. Yeah. That'd be crazy, Greg. Greg, that movie kind of worries me. I think they cast it right. I love Ryan Gosling. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's done some amazing stuff. I think he's got the. It's just that movie's such an iconic movie, and Dangerous Days for me really opened my eyes even more for that film. That went, holy moly, that movie has so much more. And this goes back to another movies where this guy over my shoulder, Kingsley, was like, I didn't really care for the movie, and I made them rewatch it a month ago. Him and another colleague. You didn't still care for it that much, though, did you? You liked it better now, right? There was just so much story in that, and there's so many things.
What movie?
Blade Runner, the original.
Okay.
Really, what it's not just about sci-fi.
Yeah.
There's right. And
there's a bigger question
story.
in terms of humanity and life and that's what I was hoping they were going to go down the road with Ghost in the Shell was really kind of talk about
same
it's the exact same thing that they're talking about, which is, and we're. There's certain movies out there that are way ahead of its time. Like one of them, I rewatched Johnny Mnemonic the other day.
You did,
and
how was that?
I
rewatch.
I mean,
I've watched the first time all the way through.
And there's elements of that story that are like completely hokey and whatever, but at the same time, it's catching up to what's actually happening in the world right now in terms of the tech and what people are doing with their bodies and the ideas of like, there was something that I saw the other day where they were talking about, brain mapping so that can actually help somebody learn faster. So you figure out what that is, and then they supercharge these electrodes essentially while you're reading stuff that makes you learn stuff faster.
Right.
And it's like something like 40% retention higher than without it. And it's crazy, man. Like we're headed there. We're doing this. We're moving forward. And even things like the automation of factory work. Like even my local newspapers last week there was an article talking about that, how in the future
you still get a newspaper?
I do. And Toronto's got this really cool thing that the TTC puts out this little mini newspaper, and at the bus stops they got it, and it's for free, and it's just articles of like interesting things and whatnot, so that commuters as they're going to and from every single day there's a page. And there was an article in there about that, and I was like, wow, man, it's made even the paper now, that people are talking about this. So, and things like overpopulation and and methods of birth control and all of that. Yeah, and it's like none of if you're gonna make a movie, like I get the fantastic and the visuals, and I think they nailed it in terms of those things, but really the story was about that, and that's why it was ahead of its time. That's what resonated with people way back when.
This is what I'm worried about the new Blade Runner. Like, the teaser's fine, it looks great visually, but it's one of those iconic movies. And if anybody hasn't seen, go watch the documentary. It'll even change things for you. And another documentary I think that changed things for me was Aliens. You can get that actually on YouTube. The entire thing. It's 3 hours long. Yeah. And they were actually having like riffs on set during filming. There was actually teen camera, like the crew versus James
Cameron.
And what was the producer? His ex-wife. I forgot her name. What is it? No. James Cameron's been married a couple times.
Different wife?
Yes, different wife. She was the producer, and she's a major producer. She's actually producing Walking Dead right now as well. She's one of the producers on there. I don't remember her name.
I'm horrible with names, man. I really am. I'm great with faces, but names.
But I like that stuff, and I enjoy seeing that, and that again changed the movie for me. Watching that documentary and then going back and watching the movie.
Galen Hurd.
There it is. Galen
Sorry,
Hurt. Yes,
it bugs me. It bugs me. It sticks there, and it's like it's on the tip. It's on the tip. Where is it?
Where is it?
I know it.
Camera that got you. I've got it. Yes. Oh yes. I can see it. We can see the twinkle in our eyes. We're thinking there's something's happening. He's thinking. He's got it. Right. Yeah. I love film as a kid. Me. My dad's house, we got films every Saturday. We went to the local video store in Fort Erie, Welland, Ontario area, and we all got to pick out movies, go back and watch 3 movies on a Saturday night or something like that.
I 100%, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I wouldn't be working in this industry if it wasn't for my dad. My dad, one of the coolest mementos that I got from my dad tells a story of when he was like 6 years old. He used to live near a theater, and when the film would break, they would snip out these areas and toss them, and he would go and get these.
Really?
And he taped all of these things together and made himself a little projector where he would put a piece of pencil and wrapped all the film around, and he got a shoe box and made like a hole and put a flashlight behind it, and he would project these films on the wall. And he had like this little lens that he put. Anyways, he kept this lens. And he gave it to him, and he's like, I think you should have this because back then, like, I got interested in movies through this. And so it's like, it was like, whoa, like total, full.
But your dad was never in the film industry.
Oh, he was. He actually, again, back in the day, this is going back, but there used to be things called cable channels, and not networks, channels. And there used to be local cable channels. So things like, if you've seen like Wayne's World.
Used to be local
but there is
channels. There definitely is probably in some parts of the country, but we're in pretty...
Well, certainly not.
KTLA is pretty local.
Certainly not. Certainly not in Toronto. Like they used to. You used to be able to and this is where like Wayne's World comes from. This idea of that you could put on a show.
Yeah.
And my dad had this production company called Roses, Sneakers, and Blue Jeans, and him and his friends used to go there and get all of the gear. And they would go and shoot stuff. And the local television station, CFTO TV, which was Channel 9 back in the day, used to hold workshops where they would teach. Like my first, and I still have this, my first hand-me-down of like learning how to do makeup came from CFTO, which was like a 10-page, like this is how you do makeup.
I think I remember that one as a kid too. I remember seeing that.
So like I hung around with him and like, like lights around and set things up and all that sort of stuff. I never had like in makeup effects. It wasn't like I wasn't like a Rick Baker or a Steve Johnson or one of these guys. Like I was a local guy. Like I did commercials and I didn't. You
didn't do beauty makeup, did you?
I did. I did some beauty makeup.
Did you do some weddings?
I never did weddings. No, I never did weddings. I never did anything.
Can you imagine this guy
I wasn't very good
doing
at that
somebody's wedding, sitting with a bride? Stay still. I'm going to put this on right now.
I certainly wasn't very good at doing beauty stuff. My interest is in monsters. I like making monsters.
Sure.
I like monsters are my friend. Dick Smith once told me this story, and I completely understood and related to it. He said, when I sculpt something, it's clay. It's like green or gray or whatever. And then I mold it, and then it's in the plaster. And then I cast it out of foam latex because there wasn't silicone back then, and I still love foam latex to this day. And then you get that out, and it's like creamy white color. And then you get that, and then you put that on the actor, you glue it down, and then you add color to it. And then you start tinting it where you're like using washes to start building up and making it look translucent and give it depth. And then you add hair. And then all of a sudden this thing that wasn't alive becomes alive, and you have a Frankenstein moment. It's like, it's alive! Yeah. You have that moment.
Right.
And I think that's what I love. And whether it's doing it in the computer or whether it's doing it practically in clay, I still have those moments. And my favorite thing to do in the world is sit in the back of the theater and watch people. Watch them react to the thing that you've created. Like that is my favorite thing in the world. Because I'm a perfectionist, so I'm never happy. I'm never ever happy. So by the time I finished it, and this is the nature of learning, right? You do something, you start in one place, and then you do something. By the time you get to the end, you've learned during that process. So you're actually better than where you started. So now if you were to do it again, you would do it better than the last time you did it. And so all I can see is like what I would do better. you know. And I've gotten better at that. I've gotten better at of like just saying, yeah, that's, you know, that's it was yes.
Sure.
Thank you for the compliment, you know, like that type of thing. But I don't know where I was going with that.
So what if you had moments then when you're watching people and then they just didn't care for the movie at all? And
you have all sorts of reactions.
Does that affect you at all? Like for
sometimes you're just
because
like,
you know how much hard work that went into that. It's just like any of us can comment on anything, but we don't really know sometimes the work that a person's
well,
put into
I
something.
like when The Wild came out. The Wild got panned really, really hard, and that was
The
one
animation,
of
The Wild,
animation. The
everyone
Wild
knows, yes.
came out, and everybody remembers Madagascar. But Madagascar, The Wild was in production first. Like we got greenlit way before Madagascar, and everybody says we're a copy of Madagascar, and that's actually the other way around. The Wild got greenlit first, and then Madagascar, you know, I can't even remember what it was, got greenlit afterwards. So when the reviews came out, and Madagascar was very like, you know, and like zany, right?
I'm sorry, what?
And like, and like zany stuff, and it's great, and I love it, and I've watched it a million times with my kids. But The Wild was just a different type of movie. But the amount of work and artistry, and there was an army, man, that worked on that movie, and they went and Spaz was the director on that movie. Steve Spaz Williams was the director on that movie, and the way people attacked it, I thought it was unjust, you know. So like I made a point of like going out there and trying to. So yeah, it's not that it necessarily affects me. I don't like injustice. I don't like that. You know, I don't like when you know, things are said out of context or that they don't understand, you know, the context of why something was done. So so I try to correct that whenever I can. But that's really the only real case that I can think of in terms of like a movie that got like under my skin in terms of what people were saying.
Yeah.
Like I mean, in general, it is what it is, right?
Well, you're either going to like it or not.
Yeah,
like it.
I mean, you do something and you put it out there and you hope that people are going to like it. And and sometimes it's like, especially in the VFX side of the business, you know, you're working on 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, 4, 600 shots, but in terms of how it's cut together and what the movie is and all that, that's not really, you know, you're just doing the effects. So whether or not it's a good movie or not, that's not
you're not the director. You're not putting it all together.
Very different from like feature animation type of thing. Yeah.
I think the new animations though coming out are very impressive. I'm really enjoying the new stuff like Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia. I thought was amazingly done.
And here's the thing that I don't get, Len. You have the ability to do anything.
Right.
Anything in the computer, right? Like you literally, I mean, you can take this and, you know, if this was a model, I can put it here and it, you know, it'll just hover. So from a design standpoint, you can do anything. And yet we get all these cookie cutter, the same thing, like they all sort of quickly become a blur. It's almost like it's the same people designing them or everybody's, again, emulating everybody else. So when you see a movie like Wreck-It Ralph that is actually introducing something new and different, it's refreshing. Sure. When you see something like Zootopia, it's refreshing. When you see something, you know.
Inside Out, I thought was amazing. But let's face it, Wreck-It Ralph brought us back down to the 80s, right back to the 80s.
Absolutely.
God bless
absolutely.
It. Q-Bird and all those games you've grown up with.
And those, I mean, so those types of films are the Beauty and the Beast. We went to watch Beauty and the Beast.
You did the new most live one. How did you like it?
I thought the movie was fine.
Beauty and the Beast.
And I thought Emma Watson did an amazing job.
She was. I only heard the one song that they released to hype it up, and she could sing.
Yeah, no,
she was supposed to be in La La Land, and she had to turn that down because she was doing Beauty and the Beast.
But I didn't like the Beast design. Yeah. I mean, if you look at, and this is one of the things that I did in Descendants. With the dragon, I looked at the source material of what it had done, and I took design cues from what, to me, were like, okay, this is the source material. This is what makes this dragon look like this dragon. So I took those elements and I introduced those elements as where I could into the design, so that it felt like an homage, and it stayed true to what it was supposed to be. Within reason, because obviously, you know, directors and producers, they have their own take on what they want, but you do as much as you can. But with this, I kind of feel like other than, well, his jacket was blue and this and that. They veered way over into some other direction. Even like one of the basic things, like him having like an underbite, which to me made him look like the Beast, or that his nose was like bent
Big,
and crooked,
big,
and that his head was like very wide and broad, you know. And the color patterns on it were very distinct in terms of the separation of the nose and the muzzle and his cheeks. And I thought, wow, they're going to do something digital. They're going to go this route. And then in the end, they gave him like upper fangs, like a vampire. They made him thin. And the hair work is beautifully done. It's all really well executed stuff. But it just wasn't the Beast to me. It wasn't that design.
It goes back to the original, and then you're comparing. You compare. You're going to do it. There's no way around.
I think everybody does it, right? I mean, you do it. Like if you're gonna make a movie that's based on the source, the first thing you're going to do is look at the source. Yeah. That's what you're going to do. You're going to compare. Which brings us to Fright Night. Like I never understood that when they did Fright Night.
They redid it,
and it's like
didn't refer back to the source.
Not only didn't they do it,
but they're doing that with all the reboots. Like, what's a reboot that they actually, that you feel, that was just as good as the original? Or I can't think of any right now off the top of my head that really stands out for me. Any reboot that I can't think of any. Can you guys think of any?
No,
I can't think of any that comes to mind to me at all.
One that was disappointing for me was I worked on Robocop, and what that movie could have been. And ultimately, what it was.
I actually didn't mind that one.
But it was like, in terms of the political satire, what it was and what it could have been, and how far-reaching it was, it got washed down a lot. So I'm hoping that someday in the future we're going to see a director's cut from Jose that has a lot more of that political satire in there, and a lot more. And this is somebody that had a lot to say, and I think there was maybe too many cooks in that one, and they pulled back. So I mean,
well, it happens in every film. Last night, Ghost in the Shell, it took 5 minutes to see every studio involved in it before you actually saw the movie, because there's your distributors, your purchasers, and that's all over the place. How many studios now are involved?
You know, one of the worst parts of going to watch a movie now is having to sit through the half hour of commercials and
you don't like that. You don't like the previews. You don't like the previews? I enjoy the previews.
No, but I mean, I go back to looking at the trailers.
You want to know why? Because we watch them all online ahead of time. So we've already
No. But you know what I love? Like, well, I don't. I'm a huge. I don't like spoilers, man. And I think trailers nowadays, they spoil everything.
Well, because they're now like a short film. They're 5 minutes long. And then there's 5 of them. There's 6 of them. I'm like,
go look at the trailers in the 70s.
The
go look at the trailers in the 70s. It's like ridiculous how great they were.
Look at the trailer.
It's just
Alien.
like,
go look at the trailer Alien.
Coming soon.
That did it
and
right.
It's just I mean, you don't need to ruin the entire movie and give it all away, for it to.
So you don't. So you don't like that. So since you don't watch them, you don't like that part. I enjoy that part. I don't.
And if we were talking about this as well, like one of the things are not that I want to be special, but
I'm gonna have some fake water right now.
Okay, but one of the things that
We're
I do.
CG it in.
One of the things that when we go to watch movies, we go. I can't believe you did that. You actually try. I'm going to do our commercial. H2O. It's a liquid. The best liquid in the world.
It's so good, it's invisible.
We'll
CG it in.
Yeah. No. So, I don't know what I was going to say. No. When I go watch movies, I do the whole VIP thing now, where you can go and like you've got your own couch and stuff.
So you don't fall asleep though.
I don't fall asleep, not anymore. But you know what? In the one thing they don't do in Toronto that they do in LA, they give you pillows here, all right, and a blanket.
Yes, they give you a blanket and a pillow, and they encourage you to take your shoes off.
Yeah,
I'm like, so you want me to feel like I'm at home, or I pretty much will fall asleep.
You want me to sleep? Yeah. They don't do that in Toronto.
I was at it once. I was watching. I don't remember, and a guy started snoring, and like 2 people got up. Not even the person he was with. People got up and went over and shook him and said, "You're snoring, dude." They went back to their seat, put their blanket back on. I'm like, I'm watching that instead of watching the film. Speaking of that, do you really think film's going to go down the VR world? This is ABBK over here. He thinks everything's gonna be VR film. I'm
I'll
a big component of absolutely not. I don't think so.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you two things. One,
Yes.
SpinVFX has got a VR branch to it.
Yeah.
So I get to play with VR a lot.
Which
And,
one? All of them? Oculus, Vive?
I don't know how much I can say about what we
All right.
but what we
I'm
do.
again
Yeah,
poking that you're not
but
allowed to talk
what
about.
what I can tell you is I had an experience the other day where they took one of the models that I had created and put it in VR, and it was really big.
Yes.
And it's one thing for you to say, "Oh, something is 12 feet tall." It's another thing for you to put it in VR and stand in front of it and see it 12 feet tall.
I can see that, absolutely.
It's mind-boggling. It's just like one of those things where it's like, so from. To me, that's as close as getting to sculpt in the real world. So like, it has to happen. Like that's inevitable. It's gotta happen.
Even
and there's already
though-
people like our friend Gio is already doing stuff.
Yes.
Giovanni Napkill, and I mean it's just it's,
Yeah, but he's
it's
just
a given.
sculpting stuff. I'm talking about an actual film because my concern is if I'm directing a film, I'm pulling you into the story in a certain way with the lenses, the cameras, the position. If I allow now all of this where I'm looking around, not only do I don't have your attention possibly, and you're missing some of the storyline, but I got to now pay for everything that's around nonstop. It's no more I just have to shoot what's in the frame. I got to make all the CG, all the effect, everything that's around. It becomes way more expensive too.
The main issue that I see isn't even that. The main issue I see is the disconnect between our inner ear and the amount of people that actually get sick to their stomach.
You think that's still a high number?
I think it is, and I think it has to do with some of us just aren't. Well, it's kind of like you getting in a plane and flying for the first time,
right?
Like if you're not used to that up and down vertical, you're going to get sick. So I think the newer generation that's going to grow up with this tech won't have that issue, but the older generation for them to adopt it, I think is going to be a lot harder, especially because of that. I would be an earlier adopter. Because I've had the experience and I've seen it and I've tried it. I mean, it's like one of the things that we have is we've got this demo, this Star Wars demo, where you're looking off into the horizon and the Millennium Falcon flies towards you, and then it lands, and then R2-D2 comes out of it, and you interact and stuff.
Well,
and
that's how they're getting you. I see what they're doing. They're playing to your strings.
Great. I'm like, man, for you to stand there and watch the Falcon like literally descend. I mean, it's crazy.
I love
it's
that
crazy.
part. In gaming world, it's a no-brainer. Every game's going to be VR. It's going to happen. I'm not sold yet on the film world. I'm not saying I won't ever be sold. I'm just not there yet. The quality's not there yet. And then, like I said, having to
but it's new tech, right? It's new tech.
Not really. But
well,
it is.
I mean, not in terms of the development of VR, but in terms of the cameras that they're using, the lenses that they're using, all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
It's constantly evolving and getting newer and newer,
and
better,
it's
and better,
a lot better
and
quality.
better.
And the price is still not at a point yet that anybody can just go. You need a computer that's at least $1,000. You need headsets are $500 to $800. So you're probably. But
I honestly see a future where like we're going to be communicating that way. We're going to have like we're going to be putting it on and talking to each other, and we're going to be
I'm just not doing it with you. I'll do it with my mom.
I mean, it's just, like it's, and there is a disconnect. There is this Ghost in the Shell kind of thing too, which is
she does put on a.
Well, no, but it's really
anime,
where it's really weird, where like you put something on and like the world in front of you, and you're immersed in this, and then all of a sudden you hear like these ghosts, like people talking, and the auditory, and like all of a sudden you're like. Oh yeah, there is this world outside, the female perspective is also something interesting. Like I went out with a bunch of women at work, and they were talking about this idea of feeling safe, which is something I hadn't as a man I don't think about. But they were saying that there's this idea, this disconnect of like feeling safe, of like somebody behind me, and that they tend to have this constant thing anyways when they're on the street in terms of being aware of their surroundings and who and what. And that's something I hadn't thought about. I hadn't even so I think there's a lot of issues that are confronting it from a social standpoint that go beyond the tech.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it'd be amazing. Like I can work with a colleague that's in another country, put on headsets. We're both putting headsets. We're working, looking at some. I love augmented reality.
yeah.
I
think that's the easiest
Can it be
way.
a vacation spot? You know, instead of actually flying down to Brazil, let's throw in a headset and be in Brazil and walk around Brazil.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if that.
No, I think what's going to be widely accepted right away is the augmented reality because it's you're still able to connect with the real world and it's there and you got
something virtually there right there. That's very cool. I like that a lot.
No, I like that tech as well. It's very it's, the idea you can walk around it, you can do all the things that you can with the VR, but there isn't the disconnect.
Just forget about
it. No, you're not. I think you're voicing opinions that a lot of people are voicing right now, and it's good. I think
need some more fake water.
I think we're literally at that point where we're talking about it's the beta and VHS conversation. Which one's going?
The war.
I think which one's gonna
win out?
Yeah, which one's
it's
gonna?
It's like the Blu-ray
force?
HD.
Yeah,
it happened again in the 90s.
Yeah,
or was that in the 2000s?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Are we getting the wrap up here? Is that what we're getting?
ABBK is telling us to wrap it up. By the way, for those that don't know what ABBK is. ABBK. So in the office.
Coming soon on a t-shirt near you.
Coming soon in my next broadcast on ZBrush Live. Emojis. So we were talking about emojis in the office once. And we were talking about making silly emojis of some of us because we do silly things online. And my saying, which is silly, is I like to walk around the office sometimes and go, oh, it's totally Kyle's fault. If something happens, it's not really that big of a deal if something happened. I'm like, oh, blame Kyle.
Yeah.
So I've abbreviated always be blaming Kyle to ABBK. And the beauty is we have a Kingsley, so I can use it with both of them. And I'm really trying to make this ABBK. So if you're listening to this, and you want to throw out just something in the message
hashtag
below, just put ABBK.
Hashtag ABBK. There you go.
We'll see if it happens. It's
It'll
probably
become
another
a thing.
silly thing that Paul's done. Is like, God, Paul's being an idiot again and doing something just like this thing. But I don't care. I'm going to enjoy life. I'm going to love it. ABBK likes it. It's all good.
Awesome.
See, you remember it, but I had to kill it. I had to move on. But I don't know. I don't know where this stuff comes. It's like Don Rickles style, bless his heart for passing away, but it's just stuff just comes on top of my head. It doesn't mean anything. Maybe it only means something to me. But usually we're in pretty good.
I think we are, and I love it. ABBK. Yeah. Hashtag ABBK.
You can take it to Canada.
And
we can make this international.
It just rolls off your tongue. Come on, people, try it out. ABBK. ABBK.
By the way, they've already turned off the microphones now. We're not just talking to each other. There's no recording happening at all right now.
ABBK.
I'm gonna end every podcast.
Try every variation of it. You can sing it. ABBK.
Can we do the Canadian version? ABBK.
ABBK.
Keeping it alive, baby. I love it. Well, we got to wrap up. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you,
especially going into grace and everything you've been through in life.
That, yeah.
And definitely watch out for what Cesar.
And I'm not dead.
No. I can touch here. Make a sound so they know.
Yes.
He's not digital. Unlike my water is now digital. Speaking of CG. So. Thanks again, man. It's been awesome.
I really
enjoyed speaking. Hopefully, everyone that's listening's had a lot of fun. Had some ups and downs, some tears, some laughter, whatever it might be.
I'll see you at the summit.
Would you like to end in anything? Any inspirational words to anybody since you've been in this industry
I don't know about inspiration, but I will say that don't believe your height. That's an important one, and work hard, and I think to everybody that works hard, good things come.
If you want it, you can get it.
Absolutely.
My big thing is get that artist shoulder off.
What's that great tagline? If you build it, they will come.
Okay, Field of Dreams.
There you go. And it's true, man. It's true. Like if you want it and you dedicate, and I guess the most important part is don't be your worst enemy, because we tend to do that a lot. We tend to look in the mirror and say a lot of bad things to ourselves, and let the world be your enemy. They say the world says enough bad things. You don't need to be that guy. So think positive, do good things, and it all works out. It's about the journey. It's about the long haul. Not the short game. You'll get there. Great. Man, that's a lot of puns in one. Wasn't that? That was a lot of things, man. Basically, be yourself and be happy.
Wait, give us one more last impression of something. Go ahead.
Oh,
Gizmo? You want to bring Gizmo back? A T-Rex? What do you want to do?
I did the T-Rex.
And you did the tongue, yes.
I think I'm thinking
You're
out
out.
of.
You're out.
I'm out.
You know what's
I'm
going to
out.
happen? We're going to literally end the recording.
And then I'm
think
gonna
it's
find some. Damn it! I should have done.
There you go. That was good enough. All right, and we're out. Cut.